When you first hear them, they sound strange, even a little ridiculous. But once you step onto a cruise ship and actually try them, you realize they're the kind of tips that completely change your vacation. These are the unusual hacks seasoned cruisers swear by. They may sound crazy at first, but once you do them, you'll never cruise the same way again. Let's start with something small that can save you from a big headache. Bring a pack of magnetic hooks. Sounds silly, right? But here's the thing. Cruise ship cabin walls are made of metal, which means you can slap those hooks anywhere and suddenly have space to hang hats, jackets, excursion bags, or even wet swimsuits. In a tiny cabin where storage is scarce, this one strange little trick feels like magic. Now here's another. Pack a highlighter. At first, you'll wonder why, but when you get the daily cruise planner slipped under your door, filled with dozens of activities and shows, you'll be glad you did. Skimming through is overwhelming, but with a highlighter, you can mark the events you don't want to miss. Suddenly, your day feels organized without stress. One of the strangest tips that actually works is bringing a cheap over-the-door shoe organizer. Not for shoes, but for everything else. Sunscreen, sunglasses, chargers, first aid items, snacks. Suddenly, instead of digging through drawers or fighting with cluttered counters, you have a tidy wall of everything at your fingertips. It looks ridiculous, but every cruiser who tries it swears they'll never sail without it again. Here's another that sounds funny until you realize how useful it is. Pack duct tape. Yes, duct tape on a luxury cruise ship. Why? Because things happen. Suitcases rip. A strap on your sandal breaks. A drawer rattles at night and keeps you awake. A quick strip of tape can solve it all. Some even use it to keep balcony curtains closed when ocean winds blow them open at night. It is one of those items you don't think you'll need until you really do. Next, consider this. Bring a reusable insulated coffee mug or water bottle. Cruise ships have drinks available, but those tiny cups at the buffet don't hold much. You'll be making trip after trip just to stay hydrated. With your own insulated cup, your drink stays cold in the hot sun or warm during a chilly evening on deck. It feels like a small comfort, but trust me, once you try it, you'll never go back. Here's a trick that feels almost too weird to be true. Bring clothespins. They're also perfect for clipping your cabin curtains closed. Light seeps in early in the morning, and if you're someone who treasures sleep, a clothespin gives you pitch darkness. It sounds silly until you wake up refreshed instead of grumpy. Speaking of odd little things, some cruisers swear by bringing a nightlight. Cruise cabins can get pitch black once you close the curtains, and fumbling around at 3 a.m. to find the bathroom is not fun. A cheap battery nightlight makes all the difference. It is one of those things you don't realize you need until you're re-stumbling half asleep in an unfamiliar cabin. Now, let's move outside the cabin. Ever thought of bringing a small pack of dryer sheets? Not to do laundry, but to slip into your suitcase or drawers. Cruise cabins can feel damp, and clothes start to smell musty faster than you'd think. Dryer sheets keep everything smelling fresh, no matter how long your trip is. Some even tuck them under the bed to help the whole room feel cleaner. Here is a hack that makes new cruisers laugh, but seasoned cruisers nod in agreement. Bring a small power strip, but make sure it's cruise approved. Cabins never have enough outlets for your phone, camera, laptop, tablet, and everything else. With a power strip, you avoid the daily battle of who gets to charge what. Another one that sounds crazy is using the ship's spa showers, even if you didn't book a treatment. The spa often has huge showers with strong water pressure, better than the small stall in your cabin. It feels like a luxury upgrade without spending extra money. Some people even schedule their spa visits strategically, just to sneak in a better shower. One unusual but brilliant tip is to pack your own portable fan. Cruise ship air conditioning can be inconsistent, sometimes too cold, sometimes not cold enough. A small fan gives you airflow and doubles as white noise, helping you sleep. It looks funny carrying one on board, but once you try it, you'll see why so many cruisers swear by it. Here's another odd one. Pack a few Ziploc bags. You can use them to keep your phone dry on the beach, store snacks for excursions, or seal up wet swimsuits if you don't have time to dry them. It's one of those versatile little things that always comes in handy. Now let's talk about something unusual for excursions. Bring your own snorkeling gear, even if you're not planning to snorkel. Rental gear is often old, leaky, or just uncomfortable. With your own, you're ready for any spontaneous beach stop, and you'll know it's clean. Even a cheap set from home can save you money and frustration. Here's a crazy tip that seems unnecessary until you try it. Pack a small foldable laundry hamper. Tossing clothes around the cabin quickly makes it messy, but with a hamper, everything stays neat. When it's full, you can dump the whole thing into a laundry bag. It's such a simple thing, but it makes your cabin feel organized instead of chaotic. And finally, the strangest but maybe smartest tip of all, bring sticky notes. Yes, sticky notes. Use them to leave messages for your cabin steward, like requests for extra pillows or ice. Use them to leave notes for your family when you split up on the ship. Or even mark reminders for yourself on the mirror. It feels old-fashioned in the age of smartphones, but on a ship where Wi-Fi is slow and unreliable, sticky notes suddenly feel genius. So there you have it. 15 unusual cruise tips that sound crazy at first, but can completely transform your vacation. They're small, simple, even a little silly. But they work. They save space, save stress, save time, and make your cruise smoother and more enjoyable than you ever thought possible. Because on a cruise, it's not always the big expensive upgrades that make the difference. Sometimes it's the little unusual hacks, the things you'd never think to try, until you do. And once you try them, you'll never cruise without them again. Think about the magnetic hooks again. On the surface, they seem like such a silly thing to pack. You can buy a pack of 6 for just a few dollars. But once you walk into your cabin and realize how small it really is, those hooks become game changers. Imagine coming back from an excursion with sandy beach bags, wet towels, and a wide-brimmed sun hat. Instead of throwing everything in a corner, you clip it neatly to the wall. Your cabin suddenly feels less like chaos and more like a cozy, organized space. It's almost like you doubled your storage without asking for an upgrade. Many first-time cruisers laugh when they see magnets on the walls, but by the end of the week, they're asking where to buy them. Now let's picture the highlighter trick. It's day 1. You've just returned from the sail-away party. Excitement is in the air, the ship's horn has blasted, and your daily planner is waiting on the bed. You flip it open and see pages of events, trivia, comedy shows, cooking demos, live music, dance classes. It feels overwhelming. But with one simple highlight, you mark the things that truly matter to you. Instead of missing the Broadway-style show you were dying to see, you're right there in the front row because you planned ahead. The highlighter turns chaos into clarity. A tiny thing, but it saves you from that sinking feeling of realizing you just missed the best show of the week. Then there's the over-the-door shoe organizer. It looks ridiculous when you hang it up, but within a day it becomes your best friend. Picture this. Sunscreen in one pocket, your GoPro in another, bug spray in the third, and a stash of chocolate bars hidden at the bottom. Suddenly, instead of yelling, "Where's the sunscreen?" before heading out, everyone knows exactly where to grab it. On the final day of the cruise, when your neighbor is frantically digging through drawers to find a charger, you'll smile, because yours has been hanging in the same pocket all week. Duct tape is one of those hacks that almost feels like a superstition until you need it. There's a story I heard about a couple whose suitcase ripped open while being loaded on the ship. Clothes were spilling out and panic set in. But one roll of duct tape turned a disaster into a funny memory. Another passenger once used it to silence a rattling closet door that made loud noises every night as the ship swayed. Imagine trying to sleep with that sound. One strip of tape, and it was quiet bliss. Now think about that insulated cup. On the pool deck, the sun is beating down, and you're sipping from a tiny buffet cup that turns warm in minutes. Meanwhile, the experienced cruiser next to you has their own insulated mug filled with ice-cold lemonade that stays frosty for hours. They're lounging comfortably while you're walking back and forth to refill every 20 minutes. It's such a small thing, but it makes the difference between constant interruptions and pure relaxation. The clothespin trick always gets a laugh. Who brings clothespins on a cruise? But picture this. It's 6:30 a.m. and the sun is blazing through the tiny gap in your curtains. You toss, turn, and finally give up on sleep. By day 3, you're exhausted. But the person who clipped their curtains closed with clothespins? They're sleeping peacefully until 9. It's not luxury, it's just smart. And the nightlight, this one's huge. Cruise cabins are darker than most people expect. At night, with the curtains drawn, it's like being in a cave. Without a nightlight, you wake up disoriented, bumping into chairs and stubbing your toe as you search for the bathroom. But with that small glow guiding you, you move safely and calmly. Some seniors especially find this tip life-changing because it prevents accidents in the dark. Dryer sheets seem unnecessary until you realize how quickly clothes start smelling damp at sea. Imagine pulling on a shirt that feels like it sat in a humid closet for weeks. Not a great way to start your day. But with a dryer sheet tucked into the drawer, your clothes stay fresh the entire cruise. Some cruisers even slip one under their pillow just for that fresh laundry scent. Now let's talk about the power strip. Everyone has devices these days. Phones, cameras, e-readers, headphones. And cabins usually give you 1 or 2 outlets. Suddenly, your family is fighting over who gets to charge what. But the smart cruiser, who brought a small, cruise-approved power strip, they've got everything charging neatly overnight. No arguments, no stress, just fully charged batteries and happy mornings. The spa shower hack feels almost like cheating. Cruise cabin showers are small, with weak water pressure. But in the spa, the showers are big, powerful, and luxurious. You step in and feel like you're at a resort. Many experienced cruisers quietly sneak to the spa just for the shower, especially after a sweaty excursion. It is one of those hidden gems that makes you feel like you've unlocked a secret. The portable fan may look odd when you're packing, but at night it makes all the difference. Cruise cabins can feel stuffy, and sometimes the air conditioning doesn't hit just right. A small fan keeps the air moving, cools the room, and blocks out hallway noise. It's like creating your own little bubble of comfort in the middle of a busy ship. Ziploc bags are another small miracle. You think you won't need them, but then you're on a beach excursion, and you want to keep your phone safe from sand and water. Or you have leftover snacks from the buffet that you don't want to waste. Or your kids have wet swimsuits that need to be stored until you get back. Ziplocs solve it all. They're the Swiss Army knife of cruising. The snorkeling gear trick might feel like overpacking, but it pays off. Rentals are often scratched, leaky, and uncomfortable. But with your own mask and snorkel, you're ready for any crystal clear beach you find. And imagine dipping into turquoise waters without worrying about gear that doesn't fit. That little bit of preparation turns a fun day into an unforgettable one. The foldable hamper feels unnecessary until you see what your cabin looks like after 3 days. Clothes everywhere, socks under the bed, damp swimsuits on chairs. But with a simple pop-up hamper, everything has a place. And when it's time to pack, you just dump it into your suitcase. Organized cruisers swear it makes their cabin feel twice as big. And finally, the sticky notes. They look silly, but in a world where Wi-Fi is slow and texts don't always go through, they're lifesavers. You leave a note for your spouse that says, "Gone to trivia, meet me at 3." You stick a message for your steward asking for more towels. You even write yourself reminders, like "Don't forget sunscreen tomorrow." It feels old-fashioned, but on a ship, it works better than tech. These tips may sound strange at first, but when you see them in action, you realize they're not just hacks, they're lifelines. They make your cruise smoother, simpler, and stress-free. And sometimes, it's the weirdest little tricks that end up making the biggest difference. So now you've heard them all. 15 unusual cruise tips that seem ridiculous when you first pack them, but once you're on board, they become the very things you can't live without. From magnets turning your cabin into a storage haven, to clothespins keeping out that stubborn morning sun, to dryer sheets making your tiny space feel fresh and comforting. These hacks are proof that sometimes the smallest, strangest items create the biggest transformations. The truth is, cruising isn't just about the ship or the destination. It's about how prepared you are to enjoy every single moment. People often spend weeks planning excursions and formal outfits, but it's these odd little tricks that take the stress out of the journey. They're the difference between fumbling in the dark or moving with ease, between soggy swimsuits and dry clothes, between chaos and calm. What's beautiful about these tips is how they've been passed along from cruiser to cruiser, whispered like secret codes of the sea. First-timers laugh when they hear them. Veterans nod knowingly because we learned the hard way that you don't just cruise. You learn to cruise smarter, and each voyage teaches you something new. The next time you step aboard, think about the hacks you've just discovered. Imagine yourself sipping a cold drink from your insulated cup under the Caribbean sun, knowing you don't have to get up for another refill. Picture your swimsuits clipped securely with clothespins, your room smelling clean thanks to a single dryer sheet, your devices all charged and ready because you brought that one simple power strip. Think about how much smoother, calmer, and easier your entire journey feels. These aren't just tricks, they're a mindset. They remind you that the little details matter. They remind you that even the most glamorous adventure is better when you're comfortable, organized, and stress-free. And most importantly, they remind you that cruising is not just travel. It's an art, one you can perfect with just a handful of clever ideas. So, pack smart, try the unusual. Embrace the crazy-sounding hacks that seasoned cruisers swear by. Because one day soon, when you're sailing away, watching the horizon melt into gold, you'll smile to yourself and say, "Now I understand why these tips were worth it." And maybe, just maybe, the next time someone laughs at you for packing duct tape or clothespins on a luxury ship, you'll simply smile back, because you'll know what they don't yet. On the sea, the little things make all the difference.